through a ghost town. Y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. You were lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page. But we still read that book, and we still run that race. Mississippi Racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi Racer riding out, till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi Racer riding out, wheels stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi Racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. Hey, red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 Time to chill, don't sweat it.
Yo, what is poppin', y'all? It's your boy, it is Guard E3, and welcome to this week's episode of Sideline to Sideline. Of course, let's bring you to the rest of the crew. Sitting right next to me, the Prince of Production, the Joe Burrow conqueror himself. It is Kyle Edwards. Kyle, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. I mean, look, I said the Patriots are going to cover. They went a little bit further, but I'm happy. 1-0. Wasn't sure we were going to be here, but glad to be back talking football with y'all.
And, of course, underneath him, unfortunately, his Eagles came out on top against my team, but that's okay. Better luck next week for us. Ladies and gentlemen, the Godfrey. How you doing, Godfrey?
I'm good. My Eagles won, and there's always hope. You just have to we trust in Malik. We trust in Malik. Sorry, Packer fans. That's not a good backup plan at all.
That's all I got going for me this week. Trust in Malik. And, of course, right below me, it is the man that makes us all happen. Ladies and gentlemen, the NFL genius himself. It is Gene Walter. How you doing, Gene?
I'm phenomenal. I'm feeling good. My quarterback didn't play well, but my team won, and that's what matters. And I got a 1-0 just feels better than 0-1. And I will say this. Let's talk about this, right? I want to make a statement on this show. And I said it on Wire to Wire last night. I don't think Brett heard it. So I'm going to say it tonight. I don't think Brett heard it last night. I don't think he went back and listened to the episode. I'm actually going to be a little upset at him. I don't care if he's at work. I don't care what his situation is. Got to watch the episode. I came away from that game thinking Jordan Love is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. That's what I felt. And now, granted, that could change, right? That could be, it's one game. But Jordan Love looked poised, looked like he understood where to go with the football. Jalen Hurts looked different, not great. We'll see how it develops. We'll see how it goes. But one game in, I go 1-0 Jordan Love. Now, granted, we'll get the next 2 or 3 without him. So we'll see. Unfortunate injury for Jordan Love, but we'll talk about that shortly. We're going to break down the entire week's worth of action. We got to start with the game last Thursday. The game we previewed, the start of the NFL season. Could you ask for a better start, Kyle?
No, I thought it was a compelling game, even though as the resident Ravens hater.
Oh, you are a Ravens hater, bro. You are a Ravens hater.
I'm not, though.
Yes, you are, bro.
I'm just the guy who keeps them grounded because they kind of go off the deep end with some of their fandom. But look, it came down to a toenail on the back line. Like it was great theater. I assume, Kansas City was going to come out, pretty hyped up with their, banner and all that kind of stuff and all the festivities. We talked about it last week. Like we thought it was a game that Baltimore needed to have for their mentality. If they want to make that next leap, beating a team like Kansas City in Kansas City is something you need to do. They tried. The game plan was a little iffy for me. I thought they should have run the ball with Derrick Henry a little bit more, but, it is what it is. They're going to keep doing their thing, and, Lamar is their star. I mean, Isaiah Likely had a good game. Like, you got to give him his props, but I feel like Derrick Henry should have been used a lot more.
Well, the first question I have asked after the game, has the torch been passed from Mark Andrews to Isaiah Likely? Godfrey, do you think that Isaiah Likely is now the tight end one over in Baltimore?
No.
Okay.
I mean, He's talented. People have been saying that for years. He's a good player. Fantasy wise, if you want to trade Mark Andrews 10 pennies on the dollar for me, I'll take him. Please come help. I'm going to do that because at the end of the day, he didn't pass torch. He played left tackle a lot. Both teams shut down their big time tight ends, and that's just the way they had to game plan, and that's just going to happen sometimes. And he was taken out of the game. And Lamar made a couple great throws. To Isaiah Likely. Isaiah Likely made an amazing move, but I don't see that. I see Mark Andrews will, take his throne back. It's panic time because it's week 1. But, I'm not in any amateur leagues where people will cut a Mark Andrews, but I'm pretty sure there's some people out there and pick him up swiftly because they're going to regret that mistake. But no, he had to play tackle essentially at certain packages and line up that way. That's because the pass rush was coming after Lamar Jackson. So no mantle's being passed right now. No.
Okay. I thought it was a great first game of the season. I thought it was incredible to watch. 2-star quarterbacks and Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson spin the ball around the yard. I think that, Lamar did a little bit more with his legs than I'd like to see. I wanted to see more of King Henry. I wanted to see more of passes. Isaiah Likely had a very good game. He obviously tried getting it was very obvious that they tried getting the ball to oh my Lord, Zay Flowers. But I'll say this, Steve Spagnuolo and that Andy Reid overall team is super prepared defensively, and they look like they haven't missed a beat at all. Obviously, it's week 1. They were a little bit, obviously everyone's a little bit rusty, but that Chiefs defense after the first touchdown drive locked down for the good part of that game. I got to give credit where credit's due. Baltimore battled back. They look good. I think both teams look good. I think it's very evident that these are 2 of the top 5 teams in football. Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton on the defensive side were all over the field for Baltimore. Loved every bit of it. For the Chiefs, Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, which, by the way, did you guys see the comment from Cam Taylor-Britt? I don't understand how you lose to the Patriots at home. You're 0-1, and you go in the media and go, he's just fast. He ain't nothing special. Why are you doing that? Why? I just don't get it. But I kind of wanted your take on the game, Brett. What did you think of the Thursday night action to open the season?
I thought you couldn't have asked for a much better opener, honestly. We got all the stars were out. It was a great game all the way down to the end. And unfortunately, it was for the Ravens fans, it was decided when Likely just had his toenail right on the line. So overall, it was a great game. My concern with the Ravens going forward is still, it was before the season, and now I just have even more questions about Derrick Henry's fit in the zone run offense. I don't think that's his game at all. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they balance Derrick Henry's strengths along with Lamar Jackson. So it'll be interesting to see how they do that going forward.
I honestly, just personal opinion, I honestly think that Derrick Henry is a terrible fit for them. I said that when he got signed there. But speaking of good games that went down to the wire, Friday night, great game, went down to the wire. Brett, we haven't talked since the game, right? I told you, Brett's a gentleman, right? I'm not a gentleman, and I'm a nice guy. Like, Brett's met me in person. We're friends. We're good. But Brett messages us before the game. He goes, good luck, guys. Oh, great game. And like super friendly. And I'm just like, don't do that. We're not friends today. Like, we're not. Don't do it. And we haven't talked since the game. And I give everybody 2 days to cool off. I give everybody 2 days. Brett doesn't seem like he needs it. He's just a great, genuine human being. I need it after an Eagles loss. So I asked this question. Brett, from your perspective, because Eagles fans are going absolutely ballistic of the poor play of Jalen Hurts, 4 turnover-worthy plays. He threw the 2 picks. One of them was one of the worst I've ever seen in my life, where he threw across his body, up 5, in field goal range, when you can easily go up 8, take a real stranglehold in the game. He just throws the ball to Jair Alexander across his body. People are going berserk about the Eagles. How are the Packers handling that game? Where are the Packers fans on this game? What are the comments you're seeing around the Green Bay area? I would love a Packers fan's perspective on Friday Night Football.
So I was overall, I was actually very happy with the way that the Packers played. I thought we came out and we competed really well. The biggest concern outside of the Jordan Love injury, just with our play in general, tackling, there were a lot of missed opportunities and just a lot of missed tackles in general. At times, our offensive line didn't seem to communicate properly, letting too much pressure get back to Jordan Love, forcing him to improvise, just a little too often. Overall, to me, the biggest concern going forward is we definitely need to tackle better, but that also could be the field. And on offense, I said it before, the offensive line is a big question mark coming into Green Bay, and the depth is really bad behind this O-line, and they didn't really do much to quell my fears in that first game. And our run defense.
You want to hear something funny? In Philadelphia, we're very pissed off about our pass rush. We felt like we didn't get any pressure on Jordan Love. We felt like he had all day in the pocket. And I think it's very interesting that Packers fans are concerned about their offensive line. Kyle, from a non-fan of either team, what was your perspective of the game?
I mean, look, I feel like when I watched it, Saquon Barkley seems like a great fit for Philly. I thought for Green Bay, it was a little uneven. I thought Jordan Love played well in spots. I thought between he and Hurts that they play a little bit below probably their normal stat line and everything like that. But I feel like they're two good quarterbacks. I mean, obviously Love will miss the next couple of weeks, but I thought for everything that was involved, I know, a lot of people talk about the field and everything. And I did hear, like you guys talk about it on, Birds Deep, that Saquon, after he got his footing right, like he looked like a guy that would have played on any surface and dominated on that night. So, I mean, look, for Green Bay, there are some challenges coming up now with the Love injury. But I feel like that if he comes back in a couple of weeks, I think they'll be okay. I think they have the talent there. And for Philly, I don't know, Jalen Hurts, I feel like there are some concerns coming out of that game with him. And like you said, the interception and everything was poor. But it's week one. Like I find it hard to like go overboard with a lot of these week one games. Because even if you don't play well, I feel like, Jalen Hurts could very well come back Monday and look great. And then you don't even remember his performance on Friday. So I usually take like a couple of weeks before I really want to start, criticizing good players too much. But I get it for like you guys as fans of your teams, like that doesn't really work. It's like week to week with you guys.
Yeah, we got to analyze. What's going on.
Absolutely.
In the field. And we broke it down a lot on Birds Deep if you haven't listened to it. But Godfrey, give me a quick synopsis of the way you've seen the game.
I mean, listen, you had the field conditions untenable for most players out there. Those players definitely didn't feel comfortable in the field.
No.
I looked at it, I thought the Packers had some explosiveness with Jaden Reed. I talked about it. They were burning our older cornerback that's been cut 9 times and re-signed 8 times, whatever. He's like a human Band-Aid, but surprised you didn't get
Dwayne Wade commercial.
Yeah,
fall down 7 times, get up 8.
Right.
Surprised you didn't get injured during the game. But that being said, thought the Packers looked good from a non-Packers fan perspective. There were some things that it was some rust. I thought their run game would be a little bit better than it was.
They ran for 7.8 yards per carry. I think that's a little bit better than you think it is.
Yeah, but they didn't.
21 carries for 163 yards. You thought their run game was going to be better than that? What did you expect from us?
Yeah, well, listen, I just feel like where you use the run game and how you use the run game also steps outside the stats. Like, are you using it to close out the game? Is it, there's just spots where it matters and it doesn't matter. That game was just a lot of mush when I looked at it. It felt rushed. It felt unnatural because of where it was at. The field was crappy. I feel like it was hard to get a read on it as just a football fan, even outside of being an Eagles fan and a Packers fan. I'm glad that, Jordan Love's going to be able to come back. I will say to Packers fans, though, you better hope you guys can rip off a couple wins, because if you can't while he's out, your schedule does not help you, after like the 4 or 5 weeks. It gets rough. So, You needed to be 2-1, 3-1 going into that after week 4.
My question to Brett, because I know as an Eagles fan, this is exactly what we would be saying, is my question to Brett would be, has there been talk about why the Packers didn't run the football more? I mean, they had such success on the ground. I have no idea why they abandoned it. Josh Jacobs ran the ball for 5.3 yards per carry. Obviously, your backup running back, Emmanuel Wilson, ran the ball for 11 yards a carry. And Jaden Reed, 1 carry, 33 yards. Like, it looked like they were getting anything they could in the run game, and they threw the ball 34 times. I felt like the Packers abandoned the run game, which doesn't make sense to me.
It didn't make sense to me either, because the run game was working really well, and they just got away from it too early, unfortunately. Put a little too much on I'm not sure if they didn't – I'm sure they liked what they were seeing. I don't know if they just wanted to rely more on Jordan Love. I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but overall, I completely agree. We abandoned that run game way too early because that was the most explosive part of our game. It was absolutely terrific on Friday.
Isn't that Matt LaFleur though? Like,
yeah,
not really getting a rhythm to the run game. That's my whole point. Like, it's almost like it's empty stats to me. Like, that's been his MO. Like, oh, let's use Aaron Jones. Let's not. Let's go AJ Dillon here. Let's not. Let's, it just, I don't really see a rhythm from the Packers when it comes to the run game. See what I'm saying? Like, it seems like out of place. They should be dancing, but they're running. They should be running, but they're not. Like, and I feel like that's always been a Matt LaFleur offense where, like, they have to have multiple backs involved. Like, they almost, I feel like if they had a bell cow back, it would be an allergic reaction. They would break out in hives. Like, and they should absolutely.
Josh Jacobs a bell cow bag.
Yeah. They should lean on him because they're going to need to, because Malik Willis ain't going to lead you to victory. So they better run the brakes off of Josh Jacobs.
I got news for you. Green Bay Packers going to win this week.
Who are they playing?
Indianapolis.
I said the same thing. I think they get it done too.
I got news for you, but I don't want to talk about that too much. We were going to talk no previews. We're just going to preview Thursday night. We want to do a little bit more of a recap. I want to head into Sunday. I want to start with first-round draft pick Caleb Williams, who did not look good. Let's give credit where credit's due. That Titans defense looked incredible. I do want to address a couple things, right? One, Caleb had a very bad game. Let's be clear there. Number two, a lot of that bad game had to do with the Titans defense. The Titans went into Chicago and took it to them. They were up 17-3. It looked like that game was getting out of hand. And then a blocked punt and one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen on a football field. Like the still picture of Will Levis throwing that football with his hands up and that ball getting taken to the house was one of the moments of week 1 to me. Mm-hmm. Brian Callahan, who, went into the media, and I've never seen a coach absolutely throw their young quarterback under the bus. He said if we had punted on 1st and 10, we probably would have won the game. That is wild for a coach. Now, it's not inaccurate. It's an accurate statement. Their defense was dominating. But to say if we had punted on 1st and 10 the entire game, we probably would have won was wild.
That's a clear message. That's, I didn't draft you, so you better shape up or you're going to get shipped out.
That's a fact. That's exactly what that meant. Your thoughts on that, Kyle? I know you're big on the Titans. You picked them in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. What were your thoughts on the game? Because that defense looked every bit as advertised, if not better.
Yeah, and that's where, I really saw, the front four. They were getting after Caleb Williams, made it very uncomfortable for him. For Will Levis, like, that's one of those plays, and I feel like that's kind of where Collins putting it out there. Like, you don't have to do that in that situation. Like, your defense is playing well enough that take the incompletion. Even if you take the sack, you're fine with that. Like, that was a moment where, like, Will looked over there, saw a guy in Titan blue for like half a second, and was like, I'm going to shovel it out there, which is wild to think from inside the pocket. You're going to shovel it out to the sideline to a wide receiver and think you're going to get it there. But it is, second year, he's still learning. Like, that's something he can't do. And that's why I'm like, Callahan doing what he did. Yeah, it's not something you see, but he's trying to hammer it into his head. Like, you don't need to make plays like that. Not with this team. Not with the moves that we made around you. We don't need you turning the ball over like that. So I'm still high on the Titans. It just, that one play right there is where Will Levis will have to grow. And we'll see this week whether or not he's learned from it. But yeah, the defensive front, especially for Tennessee, like, it was encouraging to see that, the way that they got after Caleb Williams and made him, scramble for his life and all that, made it very uncomfortable for him.
Yeah, that interior is
yes
stout in Tennessee. And
they
tried to run up the middle.
When I rewatched that game on the All 22, Sebastian Joseph Day, and you were talking about a rotational guy in San Fran last year, jumped off the page to me. And like, there's other guys on that Titans defense that look good, but Sebastian Joseph Day looked like a man playing against boys. And like, when I got to watch that on All 22, once again, let me just be very clear. You can't watch every game at 1 o'clock. So I watched the Red Zone, and I had the Miami Dolphins, Jacksonville Jaguars game on. So I didn't get the chance to see that game until I watched the All 22. But man, Sebastian Joseph Day was having his way with that Chicago Bears defensive line. I think he had a sack, a couple TFLs. Like, he was all over the field. I can't say this, bro. Caleb still sucks. I can't say that, bro. Pat Damon said, I said if T'Vondre Sweat makes an immediate impact, they're going to the playoffs. And man, he looked good. He did. He looked very good, Pat.
It's funny because this was one of the games I was watching on the All 22 as well for a bit. And two guys on the Bears offensive line jumped off the page for me, but just in the absolute opposite direction.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're going. Good.
Evan Jenkins got absolutely fucking dog walked all afternoon. And Coleman Shelton, the starting center, was just equally as bad. I'm not going to sit here and throw Caleb Williams under the bus and say he's a bust after week one. Because when you can get as much pressure as those two are letting up the entire game, it's tough for a rookie to, really fight under those conditions. Now, should he have been better? Yeah, he could have been better, but
no quarterback can overcome pressure up the middle. I mean, it's almost impossible. They could run backward 100 yards. If you come up the middle, the play's blown up. Yeah. I just, that is death to an offense. So
we got to admit, Tevin Jenkins is probably a bust, man. 2021 second round draft pick. He has not looked good, and he moved from tackle to guard. He's just not been a guy. And, we're getting into the X's and O's, not the Jimmies and the Joes. But I'll tell you right now, the Chicago Bears need to protect Caleb Williams if they're going to be. But that defense is absolutely fire on both sides of the ball. I left that game thinking Chicago will be fine defensively. Tennessee will be fine defensively. It's what young quarterback is going to lose them the game. And Caleb didn't lose them the game. Will did. That's why I'm going to leave it right there. Want to move on to a couple other 1 o'clock games. And, this is selfish. You knew exactly where I was going with this. We're talking about recapping games. You knew exactly what 1 o'clock game I was talking about. The one I watched from start to finish was the Jacksonville Jaguars to Miami Dolphins. And once again, after the game, I can't go on Twitter, because if I go on Twitter after the game, I'm going to read something that's going to piss me off. And like, I'm screaming from the top of my lungs, please watch the friggin' games. If I see Trevor Lawrence slander after that football game, I am going to lose my goddamn mind. Guys, listen, you want to criticize him for what he did last year when he was injured? Fine. Did anyone else watch that game and think Trevor Lawrence was 1% of the problem? 2% of the problem? Like, please tell me. Maybe I'm wrong. They have the ball. It's 17-7. They have the ball. They're walking it down the field. Travis Etienne's walking into the end zone. It's about to be 24-7 heading into the fourth quarter. There was 30 seconds left in the third quarter. The game's over. Ball gets punched out, fumbled into the end zone. The ball comes out. The Miami Dolphins recover it. The next friggin' play, and everybody in the whole world knew what was going to happen next play except Jacksonville. 80 yards to Tyreek Hill. And instead of that game being 24-7, it's 17-14. Now, I have the game script for the Jaguars' next 9 play calls. Run, 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 punt. Run, 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 punt. Run, sack, incompletion. And it wasn't incompletion. It was a drop pass by Evan Ingram. I watched that game like a man that had like. Now, here's the one thing I'll argue. Here's the one thing I will say. You get paid $250 million, you should be able to check out of a play. You get paid $250 million, you should be able to be like, this shit ain't working. You're not going to run 3. We're not running this ball 3 times in a row. I'm throwing it. I'm checking out of the play. If you see the defense is pressed at the line, you should be able to check out of the play. But don't tell me that kid didn't play good. Christian Kirk dropped 2 balls, and one was, and I was trolling, and Brett fell right for it in our chat. Literally puts a ball in the breadbasket for Christian Kirk, and then Etienne fumbles, and then Kirk drops a ball, and Evan Ingram drops a 20-yard pass that's just right in his hands. Guys, can we just stop? Like, if you don't want to like the kid, that's fine. If you think he's overhyped, that's fine. But can we at least have an honest evaluation of him? Like, he didn't play bad.
Well, I mean, I don't think he played bad, but I got to ask, how does Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram combined have 2 catches for the whole game? And this is a Miami defense that has lost people. Now, they have Ramsey, and, you know, they're not completely null and void of effort, but, you know, ETN lost in that game. The play calling was very interesting to me down the stretch. You know, Kirk, 1 catch for 30 yards. Ingram, 1 catch for 5 yards. Like, these are guys that are supposed to be studs. Brian Thomas outperformed, you know, those guys, and Gabe Davis, you know, outperformed, I think, had the most yards out of all the receivers. You know, I don't know. Like, they didn't seem like they had any idea what they were supposed to do once, you know, ETN coughed up that ball. And it shouldn't have been. They pretty much dominated that whole game. I was surprised that
after the fumble, and bro, momentum's a crazy thing, and Doug Peterson should know everything about momentum. After the fumble and the 80-yard touchdown, like, you cannot go run. You just can't do it. You have to go out and get a first down. That's the most important thing, is to move the sticks a couple times. You can't do that. Kyle, what did you see? Did you see it like the majority of the game? I know your Patriots were on upsetting the world, but did you go back and see any of it?
No, I did. And I feel like with when it comes to Trevor Lawrence, I mean, look, Twitter is a wild space to watch. I mean, to look at after any game, because the amount of overreaction you'll find, no matter who it is, it's rampant on there. So I do think Trevor Lawrence was okay. I feel like where a lot of it comes from is they'll talk about him coming out of Clemson. You know, it was seen like he was the next sure thing, the money and the contract and everything like that. I think to some fans, you know, blaming a drop or something like that seems like can't really do that anymore. Like, for what he's being paid, you're looking for him to like elevate the talent around him. And like Godfrey said, like, Christian Kirk had a good year last year. How does he only have 1 catch? You know, Evan Ingram is a, you know, talented tight end. He's, you know, kind of a hybrid type of guy, like the new age tight end. How do you only find him once? I know Brian Thomas played really well, so now the key for Trevor Lawrence and, you know, Peterson and his staff is going to be, all right, so how do we get Brian Thomas going, but also Christian Kirk, who was a really good wide receiver for us last season. Like, we got to find a way to bring it all together. It can't be 1 week it's Brian Thomas, and then like at this week he disappears and Christian Kirk finally has a good game. Then there's some disconnect with Jacksonville, which is why like I haven't picked them to like win the division or even make the playoffs. It's just like something with this team just isn't right for what I feel like they should be. And unfortunately, as Trevor Lawrence is the quarterback, a lot of that's going to fall on him because that's just how we are with sports right now. But looking at the Miami game, I do think he played well. It's just like the 80-yard bomb to Tyreek Hill, clearly that changed everything, and that's where they lost the game. Like that's when they were like, "Oh, here we go," and they were never able to rebound from that.
Brett?
Yeah. So I made sure to go back and watch some of this one, and I think this game, if you walked out and handed the ball to Christian Kirk, probably would have dropped it anyway.
Correct.
This man had 4 targets, 1 catch, and 2 drops.
Yes, correct.
I can't blame that on Trevor Lawrence at all, because that means 3 out of 4 times he gave him a catchable ball at least, and 2 of them he dropped. I think Trevor, you can expect Trevor Lawrence to elevate the play of players around him, and that's fair, but he can only do it to such a certain extent. When he's throwing catchable balls and you don't catch them, there's just really nothing he can do there. Overall, I thought Jacksonville's defense played great. And the offense, it's just a little out of sync. I think it needs some fine-tuning, but I think this could be a very dangerous Jacksonville team if they manage to get everybody on the same page offensively.
They dominated the last scrimmage with Armstead, Walker, and Allen. So disappointing to see them crash. I agree. Do want to move on. There's a lot of games that happen Sunday. We're going to be as quick as we can through a couple of them, but I got to stop on this one. Bigger upset this weekend. Notre Dame losing to NIU or the Bengals losing at home to the Patriots, because the Patriots went in there and took it to the Bengals. And I gotta say this, right? I think a lot of people are not giving Gerard Mayo his credit, and we're talking about how bad the Bengals were. They went in there and punched them in the mouth. And if anybody wants to talk about the fact that the Bengals tight end had dropped the ball before going into the end zone, that's fine. But you need to remember the Patriots had the ball in Cincinnati territory and kneeled the clock out. They could have easily went down and scored again. They were in field goal range. Let's add 7 points to the Bengals score and tell me the Patriots don't kick the game-winning field goal. I got to give the Patriots all the credit in the world. They went in there. They punched him in the mouth. I don't want to say Joe Burrow looked bad. I don't want to say he looked good. He didn't look either. Jamar Chase looked disinterested, and that was annoying and bothersome. Kyle, the floor is yours, brother. Talk about your Patriots, man.
So, yeah, it's been a whole offseason with even Patriot fans really doubting Gerard Mayo and his ability. You just came off all those years with Bill Belichick. It's easy to question him. I feel like when you watch that game, there's only a couple of things you need to know. Ramondre Stevenson had 120 yards. So there were so many questions about the offensive line and what they'd be able to do. That shows a physicality level that, look, Gerard Mayo was a very physical linebacker. That mentality, you see that there. The images from Jabril Peppers on the sideline as the game's winding down and how hyped he was, even the Gatorade bath. Like, this is a team that after 1 week has bought into Gerard Mayo, and I feel like that was key for him, not only establishing like his voice and everything and his handprint on this team, but that's something that, it might not lead to a playoff berth or anything like that. But I came out of that game looking at this team as a team that will look more like an NFL team than they did last year. Last year, there were so many games where they were just a punching bag because they couldn't line up correctly. The O-line looked like they were completely lost against some of these D-lines around this league. And I'm not expecting any of that this year. Now, I do want to see more from the passing game, but I thought Jacoby Brissett just played a smart game. He made the throws that were there, got a couple of first downs with his legs. They went in and did what they had to do. Yeah, I don't think Burrow was terrible. I just feel like the defense didn't give him what he wanted. Joe Burrow would have loved to throw the ball downfield. They weren't going to give him that. They gave him stuff underneath, and then they were sure tackling all day. So that's where, Cincinnati really struggled. And they start slow anyway, so this is kind of par for the Bengals. So, but yeah, I was impressed by Gerard Mayo preparing this team to actually play an NFL game and look like an NFL team.
Bravo, New England. And they have a very winnable game this week versus Seattle, their home opener. Definitely could win that game. They could be 2-0, shock the whole world with their 4.5 win totals. Godfrey, I want to ask you a question real quick.
NIU, baby.
I know. I want to ask you a question real quick, Godfrey. And I asked the entire panel this, but I want to go to Godfrey first. What are your guys' thoughts on PFF ratings? Do you like them, love them, live by them? Hate him?
I'm mixed on him. I think some gradings I look at and I'm like, how does that make any sense? I think they're kind of a good barometer to get you in the, the realm of what someone may be, but I don't think they're a final factual stat that you can lean on 100%. I mean, there's definitely been rankings where I'm like, what, and I think they're valuable. I think they're entertaining.
All right, well, let me ask you a question just for fun. Let's see how good you are. Who do you think had the best QBR on Sunday? Best PFF rating on Sunday?
Oh, man. I think I know this too.
Only on Sunday. Now, Brock Purdy had the number one for the week. He was number 1. Patrick Mahomes is 3. Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, it was, what was it? Baker Mayfield? No?
Baker Mayfield was 7.
Okay.
Baker Mayfield was 6, sorry.
Okay, it wasn't Baker.
Want to take a shot? Anybody else want to take a shot?
Ooh, debating between 2. I'll get Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold is the correct answer. But an 88.1. Sam Steve Young Darnold.
Well, that was a joint practice, not a football game, right?
Might have been. I'll say this. Bigger surprising beatdown. The Vikings beating down the Giants or the Saints absolutely mauling the Panthers.
I come to expect it from the Panthers, though. Like, the Panthers have been a mess for a couple of seasons now. The Sam Darnold part was surprising to me. I thought he could play well. I didn't think it was going to look like that.
Well, I mean, when you pick up a Dory Jackson 2 weeks before to be in your secondary and he's starting, you're effed. I mean, Dory Jackson is cooked. I mean, if he's starting your secondary, Sam Darnold can pass on you. You're basically playing an XFL level cornerback. He shouldn't be starting on a team in the NFL. They didn't address that. They drafted 2 rookies in New York that haven't panned out in the secondary yet. And, it's just kind of more of the same for them. And I got news for Giants. You might get your wish. It's going to be Drew Lock season soon. You can't go more than 2 or 3 games with that.
Yes.
So, I mean, it is what it is. So
Panthers being more shocking with this one because the floor was the ceiling's already in the floor with the Giants and Daniel Jones. At least there is some optimism and hope with Bryce Young rebounding after a rough rookie season in year 2, and that first pass being a pick, it really set the tone for the whole game.
I'll say this. He says, where were Kayvon and Burns? I'm going to tell you something right now. I watched all 22 in this game. The Giants' pressure was not the problem. Sam Darnold dropped back 3 steps, and he had a receiver that was wide open every time. He was not giving them time to get to the quarterback. He was just dropping back and throwing to wide open receiver after wide open receiver. I don't think the pressure for the Giants, there was the touchdown pass. I think it was to Jordan Addison, where there wasn't a player within 5 to 10 yards of him. Was it a sluggo, a slant and go? It looked like that he was just wide open down the sideline. Really bad. But let's move to the 4:00 games because I want to stop on one game right here. The Dallas Cowboys and the Cleveland Browns. And I want to stop here because, guys, I asked Cottrell this last night. He wouldn't admit to it. He said no. Do you think if he could go back and undo the Deshaun trade and keep Baker Mayfield, he should do it?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Absolutely.
I think people are having 2020 vision or, backs. No, man, you can't. Listen, you got to look at where he was at. You would have to pay Baker Mayfield $30 million a year. And I guarantee after this season.
Would you rather pay Baker $30 million or Deshaun $40 million?
At the time, I'm going with Deshaun. I mean, you can't.
No. Based on what you know now, you wouldn't go back and redo that? That's what I'm asking. Deshaun Watson looks like the worst quarterback in football.
He does, but also we do have to understand they played a good defense with both tackles missing. That's a lot for a team to overcome. Both tackles. I'm not saying he's all world, but they couldn't get the run game established like they usually can. That's a very good running team. You're missing your starting tackles against Parsons. I'm sorry, man. I don't think I would do it. I just think Baker is fool's gold. He was not they weren't about that. I mean, if you know what you know now, yeah, of course, if you're going to be like, well, it's going to play out the way it did, and then, there's a new lawsuit that comes, but it's from 2020. Yeah, sure. I guess you could say you would redo it, but I mean, I still think that Baker is not really good. I mean, he went to Carolina and went 1-6 and stunk it up as soon as he left.
Doesn't that tell you that situations matter, though?
Yeah.
Situations can matter for sure.
Godfrey, I think you just had the whole problem. Deshaun Watson's not all world. And even if missing 2 tackles, he didn't show anything. And it's not like this is a situation where we're paying Deshaun Watson $30 million next year.
Right.
He's on the hook for $72 million for the next 2 years.
But did you see? Listen, we're going to talk about Trevor Lawrence's receivers dropping balls. Did you see Amari Cooper dropping a ball in the end zone? Did you see? That definitely happened during that game where the receivers were not helping him out.
Amari Cooper had 9 targets and reeled in 2 of them.
Right, and he dropped a touchdown of those 9 targets. I mean, listen, he's the whooping boy no matter what right now. Like, he's gonna be, and I don't know, man. He might be cooked.
Credit, man. It takes a lot to stand up here and defend Deshaun Watson, and you're doing it. It's hilarious to me.
But listen, if Baker was in that same situation, he would not have succeeded, man. I'm sorry, against that pass rush with most tackles missing. They barely could get the run game going, and that's the basis of that offense.
I'm with Mo. Watson isn't any better than Danny Dimes at this point. He is washed.
You know what? That's a good question for Giants fans. Would you rather take a shot on Deshaun Watson or Danny Dimes? I bet you they take Watson.
Maybe.
That's not calling Danny Dimes. He's Danny Pennies.
I call him Danny Nichols because he's so far off.
Yeah, he can't. There's no dimes coming out of his hand unless it's a line of scrimmage pants to Wendell Robinson. That's it.
All right. Well,
I just feel. Well, I was just gonna say one really quickly. I feel like if you look at Baker compared to Deshaun, there's one thing. Baker, is gonna good game, bad game. He's gonna have that team built up, ready to play. Deshaun looks disinterested, and we saw him in Houston on some subpar talent teams put up big numbers. Like, he looks slow in the pocket. He looks indecisive. Like, that's where my issue is with him. That I don't know if Cleveland isn't looking for ways out of it, right now. Any way they can get out of it in a way that doesn't completely kill them financially, they have to explore it. I don't see it getting any better. At least with Baker, you look at Baker in Tampa Bay, he is playing so much better than Watson. It's not even a conversation for me.
Hold on. That secondary isn't even NFL worthy in Washington. Let's call it what it is. I mean, that is not a good secondary. Are you kidding me with that? That secondary stinks. That's probably the worst or near the worst in the NFL. I watched that game. He could have been like that awful. That's a defense doesn't even exist in Washington. It was so bad. I'm sorry.
Not the worst. Benjamin St. Juste is not great. Emmanuel Forbes is a first-round draft pick. Jeremy Chin is a former rookie of the year. Jeremy Chin is a former defensive rookie of the year. Emmanuel Forbes is a first-round draft pick. I wouldn't say they're the worst in the league.
Dude, they were passing all over them that day.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I just don't. Mike Evans was doing Mike Evans things, but Jaleel he just dusted him for a bomb. I didn't see any effort from that defense that said, Dan Quinn's supposed to be better than this. The team did not seem prepared at all for defense. That was an awful game. Jaden Daniels looked afraid to pass.
Maybe Baker Mayfield was 24-30. But I don't want to go too far into that. We talked about Baker Mayfield. We talked about I want to give somebody his flowers real quick, and then we got to quickly go through 2 primetime games. But I want to give Jim Harbaugh his flowers because that Chargers team looked a lot tougher. They ran the football. They stopped the run interior, and they looked like the tougher football team when just 9 months ago, the Raiders beat them 75-1. If you remember that game, just literally 9 months ago. Got to give the Chargers all the credit in the world for showing up. Let's talk about the 2 primetime games. 2 primetime games look really
what was that coach's name on the Chargers? Whatever his name, Brandon something?
Brandon Staley.
Yeah. He put the bar down to the depths of hell.
You're right.
Jim just has to show up I'm here. Better job done already. Anyway, all right.
Lions, Rams. If it wasn't for the Thursday night game, this might have been my game of the week. This is an incredible football game. But one thing I will say is this. Cooper Kupp is back. And if I'm going to say two things, I want to tell you right now, that Detroit Lions team is tougher than you, and they know it. They are going to pound what they did in overtime.
Yes.
Hold on, I want to pull up the play chart in overtime. This is so insane. I just want to read it to you out loud. I looked at it earlier. 8 plays, 70 yards. Khalif Raymond, run 12 yards. David Montgomery, run 21 yards. David Montgomery, run 9 yards. Jared Goff, pass 10 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs, run 3 yards. Montgomery, run 6 yards. Montgomery, run 8 yards. Montgomery, touchdown. They literally lined up and said, we're going to run the ball down your friggin' throat, and you're not going to stop us. That's a tough team, bro. It's a tough team.
That's Dan Campbell's imprint right there.
I love that.
I love it too. I heard some LA, Rams fans like, oh, this is why the overtime rule stinks. Stafford should have gotten the ball. I'm sorry. If Detroit does that to you on their drive, you don't deserve the ball. 100%. Like they lined up, you knew what they were going to try to do, and they did it better than you could stop it. So I was thoroughly impressed with Detroit just off of that drive, because that's what I'm like, that's what they're going to do week in and week out. Like that's their identity. And
Let's change the rules. Let's change the rules again. What do people want? Like we're gonna keep changing the goddamn overtime rules. Like we already did it once because what are we doing here? Like stop. This is why they should have never started that in the first place. Because I
actually think the touchdown rule is a lot better.
I do, but I'm just saying, like, what do people want now? Like, everybody's got to get a full possession. Let's just go to college overtime rules. Everybody can just stop their whining.
Monday Night Football. One of my biggest you got to be kidding me of the week. Listen, let me just be very clear when I say this. The 49ers look like they were well more prepared team. And that Kyle Shanahan zone blocking run scheme looked a lot like Mike Shanahan's zone blocking run scheme, his father. It looks incredible over there in San Fran. They look like the stronger team, the more prepared team. I got to give San Francisco all the credit in the world. What I do want to talk about just quickly, Jordan Mason saying he found out he was starting Friday and then gets in the press conference and they asked him the question about it. And he goes, that's why I'm mad. That's why I don't talk to the media. You volunteered that information. No one asked you to say that shit. I can't believe that he blamed the media for that. Like the reporter wanted this answer. This is what the reporter wanted. I found out 30 minutes before game time. Wow, what a performance, Jordan. You found out 30 minutes before and you were ready. They weren't looking for you to say Friday, idiot. And then he blamed the media.
Who did Jordan blame the media? Or?
Yeah. Yes.
Listen, that reporter did a good job by asking that question. And Kyle Shanahan's a jerk off. I hope they get docked a draft pick. With betting and fantasy football, that is what drives the revenue to this league. That is why people watch games that don't matter. And if you want to act like it doesn't matter, you're a jerk off. And the NFL's partnership with DraftKings and all that, you can't sit there and then Bijan Robinson, thing happens last year, and then I hope they do something to them because they did it on purpose. And that young man said the truth, and they shouldn't even be mad at him for messing up because if you're a good coach, you don't need to do bullshit like that.
It was very obvious he got yelled at. It was very obvious he got yelled at.
And he should. And
that's press conference, and he had the career game, best game of his life, and he got the press conference mad. I'm like, oh god.
That's why Kyle Shanahan hasn't won it. He's not a winner yet. That's why, because of that. Because that's BS. You shouldn't get mad at that player because you got caught fudging the system. You should own up as a man and as a leader and say, listen, Jordan, that wasn't you. That was me. That's on me. Be a man, Kyle Shanahan. Be a man. You're still just your daddy's kid until you win a Super Bowl. And that's that. I'm sorry. Like that is San Francisco is known for this. They have a beat reporter that's a team hired reporter. They don't have real reporters in San Francisco. And if they do, shame on the reporters. I can report from the toilet better than them about that. I'm like, hey, he's got this calf string thing going on. I keep talking about. Is he going to play, Kyle? Is he going to play? And teams have way too much power. The NFL needs to step in. No, you can't kick reporters out if you don't like them anymore. That can't happen, teams. And that has to happen.
That was an epic rant, by the way. Epic.
Tired of him, man. Like he does it every year. Don't you guys remember when
a rant like that since Shally on Wire to Wire? Like What was that, like last season? When I
Don't
ran
you
like
guys
that?
remember
Like,
2 years ago when it was like, oh, Trey Sermon's going to be the starter coming into the season, and then he's like, whoopity-doo, here comes Elijah Mitchell. Not one reporter could have saw that in camp. Not one, right? And they pulled the okey doke on everybody. Like, come on, man. Trey Sermon's barely even in the league now. Come on. Like, it's got to be better. Like, reporters in San Francisco got to be better. The coach, I hope they get docked a first rounder and they come off the top rope on them because they deserve it.
I love it. Brett, Kyle, what would you like to add?
Hey, I look, he kind of said everything. Well, I mean, on the game, like you said, the Niners looked prepared. The Jets look like, I don't know, the Jets defense was non-existent most of the night. The Jets offense was Brees Hall couldn't run. Rodgers wasn't comfortable most of the night. So it kind of went like I thought it was. I feel like the Niners are a more complete team than the Jets. The Jets are still, I guess, trying to get used to Aaron Rodgers and what the offense is going to look like. But, if they're not going to be able to run the ball, they're going to have some trouble against some of these teams that they're going to go up against.
Well, let's not pretend they were going against Carolina. They were going first one of the best front seven.
But they do have Tennessee this week. And we just talked about Tennessee's defense. I'm just saying, could they be in for a repeat of Monday night's performance against another good defensive team?
That will not shock me if that game's a lot closer than it should be.
The Jets,
the same thing,
dude.
I've said the same thing.
It's week 1, but listen, you watch that offense. The coach, who's the head coach, is supposed to be a defensive specialist. They did not look prepared. The offense looks like Aaron Rodgers is running it from front to back. Nathaniel Hackett,
like they were running that offense like a preseason game, and like they were trying not to get Aaron hurt. It was just like, all right, let's just go through a walkthrough. Let's run through this offense. It looked like preseason. It looked like it doesn't matter if we move the ball that well.
If the Jets lost and it was a competitive game, I have a totally different opinion. But they didn't. It was like Debo was. So how do you get washed like that? They don't have McCaffrey. Doesn't matter. We put Jordan Mason in. Debo gets a lot of those touches now too. He was all over him. Like, I needed to see more from the Jets as an effort, not necessarily a win or a loss in that game. And it's week 1, we'll see. But I definitely think the Jets have to show more preparedness for what they're walking into. And if they go 0-2, and Tennessee, they're playing Tennessee?
Yep.
And if they go 0-2 in this division, it's going to be an uphill battle. So this is a must-win for them already.
Yeah, I hear you. Let's be quick, real quick. We're going to preview the game tonight, but before we do that, just like everyone's 30-second reaction to what happened with Tyreek Hill, got to talk about that. I'll go last on this one. I think people heard my reaction to it already. But Brett, your reaction to what happened to Tyreek Hill?
It's just an unfortunate situation all around. It unfortunately just, I know I've seen both sides of people saying that, Tyreek was escalated the situation, but even if you believe that it is a police officer's job, they're supposed to de-escalate a situation like that. So just an unfortunate situation all around, and we just got to be better.
Kyle?
I mean, the cops need to be better. And like Brett said, there's a lot of people who, because it's Tyreek Hill, they don't like his personality, have taken shots at him. He even said he probably could have done things a little better, which, it was big of him to say. But it's one of the many reasons why a lot of people don't like the social justice era of sports that we're in. It's because you get moments like this that keep popping up that bring it back to the forefront. And, some of the quotes coming from the officers, the way they treated Calais Campbell and Jonnu Smith, it's just like, yeah, it's not a good look for them. And for those who don't like when, like they say, politics enters sports, front and center, why it's still prevalent.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Godfrey?
Listen, I watched the body cam footage. Tariq didn't come off real nice at first. However, that still doesn't matter because at the end of the day, you don't have to be a meathead to be a cop. And these dudes are meatheads, and they didn't handle themselves well. You know, did they know it was Tariq Hill or not? I don't know. But they definitely
one guy didn't know until the end, because when they said it to him, he's like, you could see his face look like a ghost.
Yeah, and you know, the thing is if it was some dude, you know, and I know Miami's a city where you got a lot of things going on, but that doesn't excuse it. Like, listen, he could have been like, yeah, roll down the window. Okay, you know, that's fine. He didn't like the way the guy knocked on the window and he said it to him. That was a little testy. However, that doesn't mean you get to drag him out the car, throw him on the ground, and escalate the situation because you're making it a pissing contest. The dude had a speeding ticket. It wasn't reckless drive. It was like, 10 miles over the speed limit and a seatbelt. Give him the ticket and move on. Like, take it to the court of law. And he wanted to make an example out of him. And the cop wanted to have a dick measuring contest. That's what it is. And he was wrong for it. And if he loses his job, that's his fault. Because, you know, if that was someone that wasn't Tariq Hill, dude would have probably got away with it.
Or the officer would have, yeah.
Yeah.
That was not Tyreek Hill. If that was Tariq Thomas, that guy would be in jail and he would have got arrested and nothing would have happened to this officer. And that's what drives me nuts. And I want to be very clear that people are talking about Tyreek Hill didn't handle himself well. Yeah, he didn't handle himself well. I'm going to give a comparison I gave on Wire to Wire, and I'll give it real quick because we got to break down the game and give scores for tonight. But it would be like if a 5-year-old took a glass and threw it off the counter, throwing a temper tantrum, and a parent came over and punched him in the face. It's one thing is, yeah, it wasn't great. I wasn't happy with Tyreek Hill's response. That's such a clear, ridiculous response to what Tyreek Hill did. And it's so evident that he needs to be released and that guy should not be on the streets. So I'm very happy that Dade County is going to be firing him, because if they're not, I promise you there's going to be a lot of issues that happen in Dade County. Guys, we have 2 minutes left, and I promise you guys, going forward, we will do a lot more of a breakdown of the Thursday night game, but we had to recap all of week 1. We'll recap half the show next week, and we'll give a full breakdown of the full show. But being that we only have a minute and a half left, give me your key to victory and give me your score tonight. I'll start with Brett. Who wins? What's your key to victory?
I got the Dolphins, and I think the key to victory for them is just go deep. Got to stretch this Bills defense out and try to really open up the running lanes. I think they beat them 27-17.
Like it. What's your thoughts, Kyle?
I got the Bills, and I think the key is going to be Josh Allen. None of those stupid turnovers. Use your legs when you need to. Utilize your running backs. Make the plays that are there. Don't force anything. And I'll say 23-17 Bills.
Godfrey.
Yeah, I got the Bills on this. I just don't see. I think Josh Allen's going to show up at prime time, and I didn't see enough from the Dolphins next week. You know, week 1 through 3 can make a fool out of you, but I'm going to go Bills 28-20 over the Dolphins.
Well, the Dolphins always beat the Patriots and the Bills always beat the Dolphins. But I will say this, I'm going to split right down the middle tonight because I like the Dolphins getting the win at home in Dade County. I love Miami tonight. The nickel cornerback for the Buffalo Bills is not playing. He's out tonight. That's Teron Johnson. He's not going to play. The Bills secondary is not good. I honestly think that Tariq Hill and Jalen Waddle have a hell of a game tonight. I got the Dolphins win this one 34-24. Thank you guys for tuning in to Sideline to Sideline. I appreciate you guys. That's Kyle from the Integrity Sports Network. Guardy 3 from the N1 Podcast, the Meaty Boys Podcast, Sideline to Sideline. He's all over the place. B. Godfrey from Birds Deep and Sideline to Sideline and Taking It Deep. And this is Gene Walzak from Wire to Wire Network, and we are signing out. Enjoy tonight's game, y'all.